Hi, Nightwolf here. So, if you somehow watched every single video I have ever uploaded, you know that I'm not a big fan of ZeoWar. But because of the size of my channel, I don't think there's a single person who did that exists. So, I'll be making this separate video which will tell you my full thoughts on ZeoWar. So, start of the video. Anyway, where should I start? Actually, let's start with the thing I hated the most about ZeoWar. I really didn't like what they did with Imagine. It's character assassination. I think what they did to Imagine in ZeoWar is no different than what they did with Luke Skywalker in Star Wars The Last Jedi. So basically, Imagine's personality is very different from her in-game personality from the Resistance quests. In ZeoWar, she's a total bitch. And in-game, she isn't. Imagine in ZeoWar gives me Origin vibes. Like, Origin is the one who's supposed to be angry all the time, not Imagine. In the Resistance quests, Imagine said this stuff about Origin.
That guy's always saying, this could be the end of our reality. You know, to protect the Origin's fragile ego. Anyway, I'm not waiting for the old man to work out his personal grudges.
But in ZeoWar, I think she became the one thing she swore to destroy. Before ZeoWar released, I was excited to have some hints about Imagine's past and to see Imagine in general because she's my favorite storyline character. But I was very disappointed after reading ZeoWar. I really didn't like how Imagine somehow remembers her past in ZeoWar and pretends like one of the main plot lines about Imagine not remembering her past in the Resistance quests like didn't happen. She still doesn't remember her past in Chapter 3 Season 3 by the way. While ZeoWar takes place during Chapter 3 Season 2. We at least know about Imagine's origin story because of ZeoWar, but I don't like how her past is revealed by Imagine in a plot hole. And now I'm gonna tell you my opinion on the most viral part of ZeoWar. This. I used to be scared of giving my honest opinion because people say that I'm just a hater because I hate and I only hate it because I simp for Imagined. If I do actually simp for Imagined, I wouldn't really care about this cause ZeoWar's Imagined is an absolute dick. Now, I'll give you my honest opinion on this. This feels like a fanfiction and it has fanfic level of writing by the way. Like, I cannot think of correct words to describe this. Okay, if I traveled back to Chapter 3 Season 2 and showed my past self this image, my past self would think this image is from a Tumblr fanfic. Anyway, these are characters from two different IPs. And I don't think this can work out because after the deal ends with Marvel, they have to split up to avoid copyright issues. Unless it has good writing, but ZeoWar doesn't have good writing. So anyway, many people think that Wolverine and Imagine did inappropriate stuff, but I think they didn't. And when I asked on Twitter if Wolverine and Imagine actually did the thing, one of the writers of ZeoWar actually responded to me by saying this. So I think it's based on headcanon. Anyway, let's talk about this part. I really hate how they tried to kill off Imagine in a comic that most Fortnite fans probably don't read. And Imagine was shown alive in Chapter 3 Season 3 and was mentioned in the Vibing quest by the way.
I want to retrace the Imagine steps. If she's still here, she'll be where the party is. If there was any sign of trouble, she would have loaded up on shields right away. Gone. Please, tell me she's just doing karaoke at her usual spot.
If Imagine actually died in ZeoWar, it's no different than when 343 killed off the main characters of Halo 3 ODST in a book. I personally think Imagine is alive and made a separate video on that topic a long time ago. So, another similarity ZeoWar, Imagine, and Episode 8 Luke had in common is that they both died at the end after being heavily butchered. As if it's not obvious, I absolutely hate what ZeoWar did with Imagine. And I wish ZeoWar isn't canon. Speaking of canon, you know how Star Wars could decanonize stuff from their books? For example, if they say something about some stuff in a movie/show, but the explanation of the movie/show is very different from the book, the thing from the movie is canon from that point onwards, and the one from the book isn't canon anymore. I hope that explanation is good. What I'm hoping for is that since ZeoWar has a lot of plot holes and very different from the lore, and its lore is very different from the one from the games, I hope that means ZeoWar isn't canon anymore. I don't really think that matters cause Jonesy fucked up the timeline in Season OG, but I hope ZeoWar was never canon in the first place. And fun fact, Master Chief has more screen time with his helmet on in the Halo TV show than Imagine has screen time with the helmet on in Zero War. So, if Wolverine and Imagine actually did the thing, I think it means Imagine got both the Master Chief's treatment and the Jake Skywalker treatment.
Was that an insult or a compliment?
An insult, to be sure.
It really sucks to be an Imagine fan. Anyway, let's check out Doctor Strange. So you see Doctor Strange was involved in the Chapter 3 Season 2 trailer and has many NPC interactions with many skins. So I thought Doctor Strange definitely played a role in the story. And since there's a Fortnite X Marvel comic coming out which takes place during Chapter 3 Season 2, I thought it would explain Doctor Strange's involvement in it, but was very surprised that Doctor Strange or Prowler were never seen in Zero War. If Doctor Strange and Prowler aren't in Zero War, then what's the point of including them in the Battle Pass and the trailer if they are never involved in the lore? That makes stuff confusing. I think it's a missed opportunity to not have Doctor Strange and Prowler to be involved in Zero War. I like how Zero War mentioned the Daily Bugle getting rifted into Fortnite, and I wish they mentioned Doctor Strange's involvement in the Fortnite storyline. Actually, wait a minute. I think I know why Doctor Strange wasn't involved in Zero War. There's a comic called Death of Doctor Strange which came out a few months before the release of Zero War. And since Fortnite is canon to Marvel Comics, Doctor Strange was dead at that time, so they can't have him in the storyline. If that's why Doctor Strange wasn't in Zero War, then I don't think they should have put Doctor Strange in the Battle Pass in the first place, and they should have him as an item shop skin so more people could get him in the long term. This makes me think that the only reason Doctor Strange was in the Battle Pass is because Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness was releasing around that time. So moving on, let's talk about more plot holes. Where should I start? There are so many plot holes in Zero War, and there are probably more which I would probably forget to cover in this video. Okay, let's start with the Paradigm plot hole. So in Chapter 3 Season 1 and 2 Wasteland Quest, it's all about bringing Paradigm back, right? Here are some clips which show that.
Paradigm, it's me. I'm guessing you heard what happened. Paradigm has accessed her navigational accounts and appears to be preparing for a long journey.
Ah, it is her! The Paradigm is still out there, and she has just sent the solution to our problems!
But in Zero War, Paradigm was in coma on the Ice Moon since Chapter 1 Season 9. And in game, Imagine highly supports Paradigm being innocent.
There's been a lot of questions around the loyalty of one of our ranks. The Paradigm. So I just want to go on record, very loudly, to say that I stand with her. She has helped us every step of the way. To judge her based on rumor? Well, it's criminal. I don't remember my past. I could have done... I don't want to think about what I could have done, but I am here now. I am ready to fight. And ultimately, I think that's what matters.
But we didn't see that at all in Zero War. Instead, the only interaction Imagine and Paradigm have in Zero War is this. See, this proves my point even more that Zero War Imagine is an absolute bitch. And also, my first subscriber said that Foundation was a dick in Zero War, and I agree with him. And Origin is the one who's supposed to hate Paradigm, but he wasn't in Zero War. Yes, I know he's in issue 1, but nothing would change if Origin didn't have an appearance in Zero War. I think it's a good thing Origin wasn't in Zero War because he would also have gotten butchered like Imagined. Anyway, I didn't really like the scientist in Zero War. He felt bland. In the game, Jonesy said the Seven always have been fighting because of Paradigm.
Between you and me, we need to know what's going on with the Seven. This lack of trust could be a real problem. We need to resolve it before the IO catches wind.
But in Zero War, we didn't see any of that. What a missed opportunity. And the other missed opportunity is that Peely is never mentioned in Zero War. Now, let's talk about the second biggest plot hole of Zero War. It is called Zero War Issue 5. I think that is one giant plot hole. It takes place during the collision event. In Zero War, the collision played out very differently. Like, Zero War is supposed to be canon to the games. And Marvel characters were present in Zero War collision while Marvel characters weren't present in in-game collision. Marvel characters destroyed the crystals in Zero War while the loopers aka us destroyed the crystals in game. and the mech was blue in game, while the mech has its season 9 colors in Zero War. So now you see why Zero War gave us more questions than answers. In Zero War issue 1, the Devourer's like this, while issue 4, it was this dinosaur. At least because of Zero War, we found out what the F happened to Ice King after season 8. Many people think that because of Zero War that Paradigm and Singularity got changed to be different people, but I disagree. If anything, I think Paradigm and Singularity are meant to be the same person when Zero War was being written. And remember how in the Resistance quest, Origin thought Paradigm was a traitor because...
So, obviously, I set up a personal relay with the Paradigm. The Origin is convinced she's a traitor because she broke out of a prison he had to be rescued from.
But in Zero War, when Foundation tried to question Paradigm never mentioned about breaking out of prison, and what Paradigm said here feels like Singularity to me. Just pointing that out. Speaking of this page, whenever I see Iron Man or any other Marvel character in Zero War, they felt very out of place in my opinion. Like, Iron Man was way cooler in the Galactus event than in Zero War, because he's blind in Zero War. Anyway, have I finished telling you about all the plot holes, or have I forgotten some? Well, I guess that's the end of the video. I think if you don't know any Fortnite lore, you might like Zero War, but if you know about the Fortnite lore, I think you'll have problems with Zero War's story. I'm sure something definitely went wrong during the development of Zero War, and if the development of Zero War went smoothly, then why the hell does Zero War have so many plot holes? I don't really think it's the writer's fault that Zero War is bad. So, don't send any death threats to the writers, because I don't think death threats are a good idea. Anyway, if it isn't obvious from the video, I do hate Zero War as much as Anakin Skywalker hates sand. So, remember that. Whenever I see Zero War imagined, it makes me want to spit like whenever I see episode 8 Luke Skywalker. And fun fact, I originally recorded a Why I Don't Like Zero War video all the way back in chapter 4 season 3. But I didn't end up releasing that because I felt like I was holding back a lot because I was scared I would get dislikes. But now, I'm not scared of dislikes anymore, and no matter what you say, my opinion on Zero War will never change, and I'll not be magically saying Zero War is good just because everybody says it's good. Because of Zero War, I lost faith in Fortnite X Marvel, which really sucks cause I was hyped when Zero War is announced cause the Fortnite X DC comics were really good, and I wanted a Fortnite X Marvel comic, and when it's finally announced, it felt like a dream come true. And apparently, there were rumors a while ago that there's going to be a new comic series called Fortnite X Marvel Order Restored. But since the timeline got somewhat changed in the lore, I think it's safe to say that Order Restored got cancelled, or the rumors were never real in the first place. If you cannot handle my opinion on Zero War and decided to dislike and give me hate comments, I don't care cause that sounds like a skill issue, and if anything, it will probably boost my video into the YouTube algorithm. And before I go, I want to say something to the Halo fans. What would you do if there's a Fortnite X Halo comic series, and in it, the writer's ship imagined with Master Chief and Order with Arbiter, and the dialogue is very cringy, and it feels like it's written by a toddler? What would you do if it actually happens? And I guess that's all I have to say. Bye, Zero War success.